Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're embarking on an exploration of a company that's really quite fascinating, Intuitive Machines. We've gathered their latest financials, market analysis, news updates, basically trying to answer that big question for you. Is Intuitive Machines a good time to buy now?
Mm-hmm.
And before we jump in, if you find this helpful, please do subscribe, like, maybe leave a comment. It really helps us keep these discussions going. Maybe even consider buying us a coffee if you're feeling generous. And hey, if there's another company you want us to look into, let us know in the comments after we wrap up today.
That's right. We're really trying to sift through all the noise, give you a clear perspective on this one. It's an exciting space, literally.
Absolutely. Oh, and just that quick but really important note, the info we're sharing, it's as is purely informational, not trading advice, not investment advice. Market quotes can be delayed, so always do your own homework before making any decisions. It's your money after all.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, so Intuitive Machines, let's get into it. For someone maybe familiar with the space sector generally, what exactly is their core business? What makes them tick and why all the buzz lately?
Yeah, good question. So Intuitive Machines isn't just like in space. They're really focused on commercial lunar exploration. Think of them as a specialized delivery service for the moon. Their main thing is lunar cargo delivery using their Nova-C lander.
Yeah.
But they also do space infrastructure, data services, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And a huge part of their business, really a cornerstone, comes from their contracts with NASA.
Right.
That's critical.
Lunar delivery service. I like that framing. And it's not just an idea, right? They've had some pretty big wins recently that really put them on the map. That must be a major plus for them.
Oh, absolutely. And this is, I think, crucial for anyone looking at the company.
Yeah.
That successful IM-1 lunar landing back in February 2024,
Yeah.
that was massive.
Right.
It wasn't just cool tech. It validated their whole approach. They actually delivered stuff, commercial payloads, NASA payloads to the moon. In this field, where things can go wrong, that success, plus those strong NASA ties, it really does set them apart. It gives them credibility, proof they can execute, in a market that's still pretty new.
That makes a lot of sense. Proven execution is huge.
Okay, but even moon missions need solid financials, right? So we understand the mission, the tech. Let's talk dollars and cents. What do the numbers look like? How healthy are they?
Right. Let's unpack the financials. If you look at their latest annual report, this is for the year ending December 31st, 2024, the revenue growth is definitely noticeable.
Yeah.
They reported $80.2 million in revenue for 2024. That's a big jump from $49.9 million the year before in 2023, almost 60% growth year over year.
Wow, yeah.
And that's not random. It ties directly back to those lunar mission contracts ramping up and more government business generally. It shows that lunar delivery idea is actually bringing in cash.
Okay, nearly 60% revenue growth is definitely impressive, especially for a company literally reaching for the moon. But, revenue is one thing. Are they actually making money? What's the bottom line look like? Yeah, that's always the next question, isn't it? And, well, the short answer is no, not yet. They posted a net loss of $13.7 million for 2024. But, and this is important, that's actually better than the year before. The loss in 2023 was $17.2 million.
Ah, okay. So improving, at least.
Exactly. It's not necessarily a red flag for this kind of company at this early stage. They're investing heavily, R&D, building out infrastructure. That costs money. What is encouraging, though, is they are seeing better gross margins as they scale. And management keeps talking about a growing contract pipeline. So there's a path to profitability, even if they're not quite there.
Right. Investing for growth, standard playbook in these emerging tech sectors. But that makes me think about cash. Do they have enough money on hand to keep the lights on, fund these missions, cover day-to-day stuff, liquidity,
Good point. Looking at the balance sheet from that 2024 report, cash and equivalents stood at $27.8 million.
Okay.
And if you compare current assets, $68.4 million, to current liabilities, $52.3 million.
Right.
It suggests they have enough to cover their short-term bills. However, there's a catch. Their operating cash flow for 2024, it was negative, minus $8.6 million.
So burning cash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not totally unexpected while they're scaling up, but it's something you've got to watch. Those ongoing losses mean they're using cash to operate, and they can't go on forever without more funding.
Okay, makes sense. And speaking of funding and obligations, any significant long-term debt we should know about that can sometimes be a hidden pressure point?
Yep, they do have some.
Yeah.
Long-term debt is sitting at $19.5 million. And this mostly relates to convertible securities they issued back in 2023.
Convertible notes, okay.
Yeah, basically bonds that can turn into stock later on. It's a common way for companies like this to raise money without immediately issuing more shares, but it does mean potential dilution down the road.
Got it. So putting that all together, growing fast but losing money, okay, liquidity but burning cash, some convertible debt. How does this position them against, say, competitors like Astrobotic? What's the competitive vibe?
That's where it gets really interesting, I think. They do have competition. Astrobotic is a notable one. But that IM-1 success, landing on the moon, and their tight relationship with NASA, those are massive advantages right now. In an industry where trust and just proving you can do it is everything, being the first commercial outfit to stick the landing, getting repeat NASA business, it gives them a real edge, a measurable one in this early market. It really speaks to their execution.
Fascinating. Execution and NASA ties are key differentiators. Okay, so we understand the business, the financials, the competition. Let's bring it to the market. How is Intuitive Machines valued right now, and what are the charts saying?
Okay, valuation. As of, let's say, September 1st, 2025, the stock's trading around $8.70. Based on that and their trailing revenue of $80.2 million, the price-to-sales ratio, or PS, is about 3.2x.
3.2x PS. How does that stack up against others in the space sector?
Well, that's what's interesting. The average PS for the space sector is higher, around 5.1x. So Intuitive Machines is trading at a lower multiple based on sales.
So potentially undervalued on that metric, or is the market pricing in more risk?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It could be an opportunity, or maybe the market sees the ongoing losses and reliance on NASA as reasons for caution.
Okay, what about price to book?
Price to book is around 3.7x based on their equity of $21.5 million. The sector average PB is actually closer, around 3.0x.
Right.
And of course, because they're losing money, there's no meaningful PE ratio, price to earnings, to look at. So the relative valuation suggests maybe some moderate upside. If they keep converting those contracts and eventually turn profitable, it's not screamingly cheap, but maybe some room to grow if things go right.
Right, contingent on execution. Okay, shifting to the technicals then. What's the recent chart action telling us? Any key levels or indicator signals?
Well, looking at August through September 2025, the stock's been kind of range-bound, mostly between $8.20 and $9.10. We do see spikes on news, though.
Volatile then.
Definitely. There seems to be pretty decent support near 8.5. The buyers seem to step in there, and resistance looks like it's around $9.20.
Okay.
The 50-day moving average is ticking up slightly, around $8.45, which is, a mildly positive sign, suggests maybe a recovery from lows.
And indicators like RSI or MESID?
The RSI, the 14-day one, is right around 52. Pretty neutral, not overbought or oversold. MACD is showing a little bit of bullish momentum, but it's modest.
So kind of a mixed bag, technically?
Yeah, I'd say the short-term trend is sort of neutral to positive, but the big caveat is the volatility. This stock can move sharply on news, so you need to be prepared for swings.
That high volatility makes sense for this kind of story stock. Which brings us perfectly to the next point, news and catalysts. What's been happening recently, and maybe more importantly, what should you be watching for that could really impact the stock price?
Yeah, this is where it gets really dynamic. The last few months have been busy. We had the successful completion of that IM-1 mission back in May 2025. Huge validation, as we said.
Right.
Then in August, they got a $25 million extension on NASA cargo contracts. More proof of that relationship.
Okay, good news there.
Also in August, they announced that big proposed convertible notes offering $250 million maturing in 2030. That's them raising significant cash for operations and R&D, though with that potential future dilution we mentioned.
Right, funding the growth.
And just showing there's outside interest, Victory Capital Management disclosed buying over 255,000 shares back in July. So some institutional attention is building.
Okay, quite a bit going on. So looking ahead, say the next 3 months or so, what are the specific dates or events on the calendar that could be triggers?
Definitely a few things to keep an eye on. First, Q3 earnings, expected sometime in November 2025. That'll give us the latest financial picture and any guidance updates.
Always important.
Tied to that, the announcement of the IM-2 mission launch window. That's expected in October 2025. A firm date or the launch itself could generate significant interest.
Yeah, mission news is key.
Also, the first interest payments on those new convertible notes start October 1st. Minor, maybe, but part of the financial calendar. Then there's potential ETF rebalancing around October 15th. If they get included in space ETFs, that could affect demand.
Ah, index inclusion.
Yeah. And maybe more institutional buying activity around November 10th after the Q3 results digest. Plus, possibly some kind of holiday update on the NASIM-3 mission progress expected in November. Just keeping that pipeline visible.
Sounds like a pretty packed few months, potentially. What about the longer view? Beyond the next quarter, what are the bigger strategic things that could shape their future over the next year or two?
Longer term, it's about executing on more NASA contracts through 2026, for sure. That government work is foundational.
Right.
But also, watch for their expansion into broader lunar infrastructure, things like communication networks, data relay services on the moon. That would diversify their revenue away from just delivery.
Building out the ecosystem, yeah.
Exactly. And then M&A. As this market matures, you could see consolidation. Maybe Intuitive Machines buys smaller players, or maybe they become a target themselves. That's always a possibility in evolving industries.
Makes sense. Now, in these exciting speculative sectors, there's always chatter, rumors, anything bubbling under the surface, maybe unconfirmed, that could still influence how people feel about the stock.
Oh, for sure. The rumor mill is definitely active. There's some speculation about maybe hitting an early milestone on the IM-3 mission. Even just hints of progress ahead of schedule could boost sentiment. Unconfirmed reports, too, about talks with NASA for expanded payload services beyond what's already contracted. That would be significant if true.
Definitely.
There are also these sort of persistent whispers that the company is actively looking at making strategic acquisitions themselves.
Okay, looking to grow inorganically.
Possibly. And finally, you hear talk in ETF forums about potential inclusion in new space-themed funds. Again, unconfirmed, but if it happened, it could increase trading volume and visibility. You take rumors with a grain of salt, obviously, but they do play into the narrative.
Always good to be aware of the chatter, even if it's just speculation. Okay, so lots of potential positive catalysts, news flow, but we have to talk about the flip side. Risk. What are the major risks our listener needs to seriously consider here?
Absolutely critical. And their own filings, the 10K, lay out some key ones. Number one, that heavy reliance on NASA and government contracts.
This double-edged sword.
Exactly. Great while it lasts, but any change in government priorities, budget cuts, delays, that could hit them hard, and it's somewhat out of their control.
Right.
Number two, execution risk. Space missions are incredibly hard. A technical flaw, a mission failure. The consequences are huge financially and for their reputation. Success isn't guaranteed.
High stakes.
Very. And thirdly, linked to their financials. Ongoing losses mean they'll likely need more money down the line, whether that's more debt or selling more stock. It could impact existing shareholders.
Okay, those are company-specific. What about broader risks tied to just being in the commercial space game? It's still pretty Wild West out there.
You nailed it. The whole space services sector is inherently volatile. Technology changes fast. What's cutting edge today could be old news tomorrow. Regulations are still evolving, both nationally and internationally. And space is increasingly tangled up with geopolitics, which adds another layer of uncertainty.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally an emerging market. It's not fully proven yet. The competitive landscape is still shifting. There just isn't decades of history to look back on. This means more inherent risk.
Okay, that paints a clear picture of the challenges. So let's try to bring this all together. We've looked at the business, the money, the valuation, catalysts, risks. What's the overall takeaway? The investment thesis summary for someone considering Intuitive Machines right now?
Well, boiling down everything from the sources we looked at, the overall rating comes out around a 5.5 out of 10.
5.5 out of 10. So right in the middle. Very cautious.
Pretty much. You've got undeniable strengths. Strong revenue growth, a unique position in a growing market, that massive mission success under their belt.
The positives.
Right. But they're balanced, maybe even outweighed for some by the negatives. The ongoing losses, the heavy reliance on government work, and just the sheer volatility and risk of the space sector itself.
And the valuation.
It seems reasonable compared to peers, but it's not like it's deeply discounted. The market seems to be acknowledging both the potential and the risks already.
So that 5.5 rating makes sense. Given all of that, what kind of investor is this potentially suitable for? What's the suggested time frame? Short-term trade or long-term hold?
The consensus from the sources leans towards it being more suitable for short-term trading.
Okay.
With all those upcoming potential catalysts, mission news, earnings, there could be opportunities for quicker gains if you can time it right and stomach the volatility.
Makes sense for traders. What about long-term investors?
For a long-term hold, the risks are much higher. You've got significant execution risk on future missions, the ongoing need for funding. It really requires a high tolerance for risk and uncertainty.
So speculative capital only.
Pretty much. It's really only appropriate for the aggressive part of a portfolio for investors who understand this is a high-risk, high-reward kind of bet, a moonshot. in every sense. You have to be prepared for big swings, potentially even losing your investment.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. So, Intuitive Machines. It really feels like a company right at a crossroads, doesn't it? Incredible potential, pioneering spirit, but facing very real, very significant hurdles and risks inherent in this industry. It's
Mhm.
definitely not a simple buy or sell.
Exactly. So much depends on what happens next. Future mission success, how they manage their cash burn, whether they can build out those other business lines beyond NASA. Those are the key things to watch.
Yeah.
So for you listening, the real question might be, how do you balance that exciting promise of opening up the moon commercially against the tough realities and high risks of a company still finding its way in a very challenging market?
That's the perfect question to leave people with. Well, thank you for joining us for this look at Intuitive Machines. Hopefully, this gave you a clearer picture to work with.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Until next time, keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, and make those informed decisions.